This is the Subaru Outback, and it's one of the oldest cars in Subaru's range, but for my money, I think it's one of the best and one of the most resolved. Subaru really markets itself, and the Outback in particular, to the aspirational outdoorsy type. You're out on weekends doing fun stuff like canoeing, bushwalking, maybe you're into skiing, all that sort of thing. But at the same time, this is meant to be quite practical and handy during the week as well. Can it be the jack of both trades? It's got a few tricks up its sleeve, so let's go and have a look. We've got the Subaru Outback 2.5i Premium, which has a before on-roads price of $43,940. That compares to a starting price of $37,440 for the base 2.5i, or the most expensive and more powerful 3.6R, which has a before on-roads price of $50,440. One of my favourite things about this Outback is the built-in roof racks. They're rated to 80 kilograms dynamically, which I think is a good number and lets you do some pretty fun stuff like, no, there we go. It's worth noting that a new Subaru Outback will land in 2021, which will be on a new platform and will likely bring in a lot of new tech. While this model is in its twilight years, it doesn't necessarily feel outdated, however. In our specification, we've got autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian detection, lane departure warning, lane keep assist, and adaptive cruise control. There's also electric leather seats, dual zone climate control, and an 8-inch infotainment display. The biggest hint of the Outback's age is in the interior here. Newer Subarus have a bit more going on. There's another screen here, there's a bit more technology and a bit more safety. However, you could argue that newer ones have a bit of overkill going on as well. This Outback has a single screen here that's got Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, Maps, and from my experience, it's easy to use, no problems there. And then you've got a multi-function display in front of you which flicks through a bit more information like fuel usage and that sort of thing. While it's not the latest and the greatest, I think it's perfectly practical and usable for every day. In terms of storage, your center console is reasonably sized. You've got a little lift out tray here, put coins in there if you still use those. But otherwise, the size is pretty good, and you've got a little 12-volt plug hidden away in the front there. That's pretty handy. The door cards are reasonably sized. You can fit a bottle in those, but not much more. And this glove box here, that's decent as well, and it's got a nice felt lining. One of the real strengths of the Outback is its space overall, and it's most evident in the second row. This is my driving position here up front, and as you can see, lots of leg room, lots of foot room, and headroom is good as well. These seats are quite comfortable. They do not slide, but you can, with these little levers here, recline back a little bit for more comfort. And you've got air vents there and USB points. But can you fit 3 adults in the back of this Outback? We did it before and found it was a little bit squeezy, but you can definitely fit them in and good enough for the shorter runs. If you've only got 2 of you, there's cup holders there and an armrest, and you can fit a bottle in the door cards, which is pretty handy for the longer runs. Subaru calls the Outback a large SUV, but in reality it's more of a large station wagon with a bit of extra ground clearance. Everyone wants an SUV these days, but this wagon format does give some great advantages. While it's not as tall, it does offer plenty of space and comfort inside. And if you do want those numbers, the Outback measures in at 4,820mm long, 1,840mm wide, and 1,675mm high. There is a lot to like about the boot of this Outback as well. There's 512 litres of storage there with a second row up, which is a good number, I reckon. But if you need more, pop those levers down. There you go, there's a bit over 1,800 litres, and it's low and it's flat as well. So practically a small panel van for those Bunnings runs or whatever it might be. And under here, you've got a full-size spare, something which I think is really important if you're heading out of town. That's a full-size alloy, they haven't skimped out there, and you've also got a good spot to store your cargo blind. All practical and useful stuff. Under the bonnet of the Outback 2.5i is, you guessed it, a 2.5 litre naturally aspirated 4-cylinder petrol engine. In true Subaru fashion, it's horizontally opposed and it makes 129 kilowatts and 235 newton meters. That runs through a continuously variable automatic transmission to all 4 wheels. The claimed sprint from 0 to 100 is 10.2 seconds and claimed fuel consumption is 7.3 litres per 100 kilometers on the combined cycle. During our testing, however, we saw 8.4 litres per 100 k's. There is a few different engine options with the Outback. There's a 3.6 litre 6-cylinder petrol and there's a 2 litre turbo diesel. We've got the 2.5 litre naturally aspirated petrol in this one. It's called FB25. It's been around for a while, and to be honest with you, it's not the fastest car getting around the place, although it's good enough for most situations and most driving. Behind that is a CVT. Subaru does a good CVT. It's very stepped in its nature. It doesn't whine and drone like some CVTs can, and it's also quite responsive at the same time. Of course, that power runs to all 4 wheels on this Subaru, and they call that symmetrical all-wheel drive. It is a little bit different to other all-wheel drive SUVs. A lot of them have front-wheel drive with an on-demand system that pushes power to the rear when needed. This powers all 4 all the time, so it's a bit more confident in some situations. And with this X mode button down here that you can press, you can do a little bit of off-roading as much as the ground clearance will allow you. What the X mode does is pretty much use traction control to your advantage off-road. So instead of spinning wheels, it'll brake them when needed. So there we go, bit of throttle there. You can hear the gearbox actually change gears. There is no gears in this gearbox. However, they've done it so it feels like a normal car to drive and it's not different, and it doesn't just sit there and rev its head off all the time. And it works for me. It's got decent fuel economy gains over a torque converter, automatic, and Subaru have done a really good job of matching the engine and the gearbox together. Although if you do want a little bit more grunt under the bonnet, I would be leaning towards that 3.6 litre motor. It'll use a bit more fuel, but it'll definitely go quicker. Currently cruising along, doing about 75 k's an hour on a country road. It's quite a smooth country road, I have to say. Big canoe on the roof. And this thing is surprisingly quiet. There's not a lot of road noise coming through here. You can hear the tyres humming away. They're a Bridgestone Jeweler HT, so similar tyre to what you'd get on a 4-wheel drive ute actually. A little bit better for off-road and that sort of thing. The Outback has a nice balance between soaking up rough surfaces like I'm going across now at the moment, and also having nice control through the steering. This isn't a sporty car. You're not going to throw it into corners like a WRX or that sort of thing. The engine is certainly not sporty, but it's got a lot of control on board and it feels balanced, but at the same time it's also comfortable, so a really good all-rounder in my opinion. Age is normally a very bad thing for a car, especially considering how fast technology moves these days. However, this Outback seems to defy its years quite well. Yes, it's old, yes, it's being replaced soon, but as you see it here, this Outback doesn't really put a foot wrong. It's practical in the right ways, it's easy to live with, and it works well weekends and weekdays alike. That's why I think it's still the best Subaru in the range, despite its age. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below if this is too old and over the hill or still the #1 pick. And of course, like, subscribe to CarAdvice.com on YouTube and check out the full story on our website, CarAdvice.com.